Hello, Christian Hacking here from CBR UK, bringing you the abortion news update this week. Now, just to remind you, the 2019 abortion statistics are out. They came out last week, and they are the highest on record across the board. Are we phased by these stats? Are we committed to lowering abortion figures in the UK? Well, as far as our gov goes, not one bit. On Monday, the oldest and supposedly the wisest UK legislators, the Lords, heralded abortion into Northern Ireland with such little resistance you would have assumed that the Northern Irish people were begging for this controversial new law. Now, there's only one thing standing between Stella Creasy's abortion freight train and its deadly and undemocratic implementation into Northern Ireland, and it was this: a routine vote by the Lords and then the Commons as to whether they wanted to approve, redraft or revoke this legislation. Allow me to deal with the Lords first. So the vote came before the Lords on Monday, and 355 Lords voted for it, with 77 voting against. Now, that's a slight encouragement because 7 male bishops who were entirely absent when this law was initially concocted did turn up and vote against it this time, including the Archbishop of Canterbury. Really well done, Justin. Now, unfortunately, that still leaves 19 other bishops totally unaccounted for in this vote. More on that in a bit. Now, commenting on the matter, David Brennan, head of Brephos, has been on fire with some of the quotes he's come up with. Allow me to quote 2 for you. He states, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne?" asked the prophet Isaiah. The answer appears to be yes, if she happens to be a bishop in the Church of England. He goes on to state, one argument for having these Lord Spiritual, as they're called, and indeed an established church, is that they can be the moral conscience of the nation. If this is the caliber of our conscience as a nation, it is no wonder we are plunging into such dissipation. End quote. Now, this vote then progressed to the Commons last night, which surprisingly had more resistance in passing than in the Lords. So 253 MPs voted for it, with 136 voting against. What does all this mean? Well, it means despite the extreme resistance from the Northern Irish Assembly to this new legislation at every stage of its formation, abortion without restriction up to 28 weeks has been introduced into Northern Ireland. This is politics in its most brutal form. Now, it's up to the Northern Irish Assembly as to what to do next. I will keep you posted. Now, one interesting thing to come out of this is the disparity between the Commons vote and the Lords vote, because it would appear that MPs are changing their minds on abortion faster in the Commons than their counterparts in the Lords, which goes on to beg the question, because the Lords have 26 seated bishops, whereas the Commons have none. So where are the bishops at? Of the 5 seating female bishops, all of them abstained. That's the Bishop of Gloucester, Bristol, Newcastle, Derby and London. Sarah Maloney, from the London bishop, right? She used to be a midwife and a high-ranking nurse. She, of all people, should know about the consequences of abortion. Now, are these women apolitical, or were these women otherwise engaged? Well, sadly not. Some of these same figures have been incredibly vocal on other issues recently, including no-deal Brexit, or racism, or, whether Dominic Cummings should remain advisor to the Prime Minister. As for ease of voting, well, as part of the Vote from Home scheme, this particular vote could have been conducted with one thumb whilst reclining in your bishop's bed whilst watching Vicar of Dibley on your TV at the same time. Right? They have no excuse, nor do their 14 other male counterparts. And their silence suggests one of 2 things. Either they are for abortion under certain circumstances outside of the Church of England stance, or they are frightened of being against it. So, bishops, I have come up with a tongue twister for you. Are you a pious person of principle, persevering under persecution, or playing pragmatic politics and pussyfooting polarisation? Your actions, I hate to tell you, are suggesting the latter. Now, I'll say it now and I'll say it again in time. This problem goes far beyond just the Church of England. It is a nationwide problem. Because whilst the church seeks to simply respond to culture, it can at best only be a thermometer reflecting culture. The church needs to learn to be a thermostat, setting the cultural temperature if it is to fulfill its God-given mandate to be salt and light in the world. You see, far from playing the blame game, have we considered that the problem with our culture may stem from problems with the church? That's your news update with me, Christian Hacking. If you have any questions about this info, please do comment below and subscribe and donate to this important work. See you next week.